9 months, 21 races, and it has all come down to this. Hello everybody, welcome back to another not applicable Formula 1 video. The final video before the finale of this 2021 season. Two different drivers from two different teams go head to head with one race left to go for the first time since 2012. Vettel and Alonso 9 years ago, and it's been a long wait for this kind of championship, but my goodness me, has it been worth it. The longest Formula 1 season ever during the bounce back from a global pandemic. There's been last minute changes to tracks. There's been tracks that have been finished 3 or 4 days before they were due to be raced on. And new drivers finding form, the likes of George Russell, Lando Norris, Charles Leclerc, turning up for this new generation, the generational switch between the drivers, and nothing shows that more than the 23-year-old Max Verstappen, labelled the future of Formula 1 from the earliest of ages, going head-to-head with Lewis Hamilton, the 36-year-old veteran who has been the face of an era in Formula 1. It goes down to the wire, and I want to talk to you guys about it because I'm just so excited for it. Like, this season will undoubtedly go down as one of the greatest in Formula 1 history, if not up there as the greatest. It's the greatest of the era that I've been watching Formula 1. I started watching Formula 1 in sort of 2008, 2009, and by far and away, this has been the season that I have loved, dedicated myself to, and enjoyed more than any other. Since the inaugural season in 1950, only once in 71 seasons, 71 Formula 1 seasons, only once has it gone down like this before. Two drivers on exactly the same points going into the final race. And for me, it's completely 50-50. That is the question that I keep getting asked all week by everybody I've spoken to, by people who like Formula 1 and don't. Just everybody has been asking me who is going to come out on top. And to be honest with you, as race deciders, as title deciders go, I think this is the most 50-50 season that I can remember. Like, this is the most 50-50 I've ever been on a race. This is the most 50-50 and unsure I've ever been of picking a race winner. I just absolutely have no idea how this is going to play out. Throughout the entire year, these two drivers have just been in a league of their own. I've said it multiple times. They've just been unraceable compared to the 18 other drivers on the grid. Like, they are nowhere near the other 18 drivers. They are in a complete other planet to the other 18 drivers on the grid. And if you could pick two drivers to go head to head, I think these are the two. Because if you think about it, Mercedes started the season fairly well, actually. If we look all the way back to the beginning of the season, Mercedes actually won the first few races. It took sort of 4 or 5 races to really click for Max Verstappen and for him to start this snowball of just dominance in the middle of the season. Like, the Red Bull seemed to pick up pace and look better and better and better. And all the teams were making changes and obviously upgrades, but the Red Bull just looked in a complete different stratosphere to those other cars. And the Mercedes was kind of just about hanging on to the back of it for some of those races through the middle of the season. In fact, you could argue that without the blowout in Baku, and to be honest with you, without Bottas hitting into the back of Norris, hitting into the back of Perez, hitting into the back of Verstappen in Hungary, those two things are completely outside of Max Verstappen's control. He has no, reason to be in the wall in Baku and, limping home to a very, very solid points finish considering the circumstances in Hungary. He should have probably gone on to win or at least be in the podium of both of those races. You could argue Silverstone as well. Is it his fault? Isn't his fault? Not going to go into that now. But again, another race where he would have probably been on the podium had it not been for that collision with Lewis Hamilton. So you could argue that he could have had this title under wraps, completely signed, sealed, delivered by this point in the season. But he doesn't. And if you look at Max, he's been tenacious, consistent, and unwavering throughout this entire season. The mistake that we saw last time out is the first real mistake that I think I can think of that he has made of this season. Like that qualifying error in the final corner of the final lap in qualifying where it was looking like he was just certain to get that pole position. I think that's the first real mistake we've seen from Max Verstappen, a first pressurized mistake from Max Verstappen. But Mercedes have found form at the perfect time of the season. Like Hamilton has picked up just at the right time, just when it matters most. Lewis Hamilton has been right at the front of the pack. The last 3 races have been sublime from Lewis Hamilton, and Hamilton at times this season has looked uncharacteristically awkward in the Formula 1 car. He's looked slow at times, he's looked unsure, and he's made loads and loads of mistakes, considering he's made no mistakes over many seasons. Like Imola, he hits into the wall. Baku obviously gets his magic brakes all mixed up and just drives in a straight line when he gets to the first corner. And then Hungary goes for the wrong tyre. And it's just something that we haven't seen from Mercedes. We haven't seen from Lewis Hamilton. In this era of Formula 1, they've been so dominant. They've never really made these kind of errors. And it makes you think whether or not this is the first time that Mercedes really understood the challenge that was on. You know, we've seen Hamilton fighting with Rosberg, but they're in the same team. We've seen Hamilton fighting with Vettel, and then Vettel dropped off towards the end of the season. Ferrari couldn't quite keep up with the Mercedes for the entire duration. Red Bull were actually on the front foot for the first time. Red Bull were the team that Mercedes was trying to catch rather than the other way around. And it's the first time that we've seen Lewis Hamilton make these kind of mistakes in this era of Formula 1. And even with those setbacks, he and Mercedes have found a way to claw themselves back. As I said, they've always been just behind the Red Bulls. Or whenever the Red Bulls have slipped up, Silverstone, Hungary, they've been there to pick up podiums, pick up points, and make sure that they're dragging themselves, especially in the Constructors' Championship, by the way. Remember, Sergio Perez is in his first year, yes, but Mercedes still dominant in the Constructors' Championship, even though you could argue the Red Bull has probably been the better car over the course of the entire season. Brazil, for me, really was a turning point in my mindset. I thought, honestly, after Mexico, Max Verstappen was maybe going to walk away with this, a couple of races in hand, and possibly by Qatar, we'd know that Max Verstappen was going to be the World Drivers' Champion. But Lewis Hamilton in Brazil, I'm going to put it down as the best performance I've seen from Lewis Hamilton. And that is saying something. The man is a 7 times world champion, for goodness sake. And he put in a performance and a drive that I just don't think you would see from any other driver on the grid, any other driver in history. Lewis Hamilton put together that drive and was phenomenal. And he's dealt with so much criticism. He's dealt with so much of Verstappen on track. You know, the amount of times that Hamilton has had to dodge out of the way of disaster, including in the last race and in Brazil and so on. Like, we've already seen them come together 4 times this season. It would have been much more had it not been for Lewis Hamilton being a little bit more careful around Max Verstappen. But Lewis is just inevitable. Just feels like he's always going to be there. He's always going to be in that top 1 or 2. And he's just untouchable when it comes to his driving. He is the most dominant driver of this era. He is statistically the best driver in Formula 1 history. And my goodness me, if there were 2 drivers that could go for it, I think they are the 2, aren't they? As I said, one final race to finish this season. It does feel a little bit like a Super Bowl or a World Cup final, doesn't it? We've got to go all the way down to this final race, and it's not like, oh, okay, Max Verstappen can win as long as Hamilton doesn't come anywhere in the top 5 or whatever. They are level on points. It is whoever wins, wins. Whoever even gets 10th, if the other driver is outside the points, they win. If you get fastest lap and 9th place, then you win. Like, it's just crazy that you can win this in so many different ways. They don't need to get lots and lots of points here. It's not this driver needs to win and this driver just needs to get points. It is either of them need to get anything out of this weekend to become a World Drivers' Champion. And that is just insane to me. Like, I just can't get my head around it. And it has been the most wonderful year of Formula 1. Both drivers could win. Both drivers know how to win a Grand Prix. They're both deserved winners of this World Drivers' Championship, in my opinion. Like, these two, Hamilton and Verstappen, undoubtedly are going to go down as like the battles like Prost and Lauda, Lauda and Hunt, Mansell Senna, Prost and Senna, Schumacher Hill, Schumacher and Alonso, Hamilton and Massa, Vettel and Alonso, like those eras of drivers battling head to head. This is another one of those moments that is going to go down in history. And personally, as someone who doesn't support either of these teams, doesn't support either of these drivers, to the extent where I don't really mind who wins, the narrative for both of these drivers is phenomenal. Hamilton obviously becoming that ultimate record breaker. He already has the most poles, the most wins, and now could go sole out there with 8 World Drivers' Championships. The sole best driver in all categories. I think it's very difficult to argue against that when he does have 8 World Drivers' Championships. But then on the other hand, we've got Verstappen winning his first championship. As I said at the start, this new era of Formula One coming in, and the championship almost like the torch passing on to the next lot of Formula One drivers, especially as we're welcoming in this new era of Formula One in 2022. The cars are going to look different. The teams are going to look different. George Russell, Lando Norris, Charles Leclerc, these young drivers now 3 or 4 seasons in Formula One are really starting to come to fruition and look like they could start battling for titles themselves. And Max Verstappen has sort of been the cherry on top of that cake this year for those young drivers really pushing through this new era. Both of those storylines are phenomenal. Both are incredible narratives for the sport moving forward. And we just have to sit back, watch, and see what is going to happen. As I said, I think anything could happen this weekend, and we're going to be live for all of it. Obviously, I'm going to be live for quali, the race, and for post-race as well, where we finally get to see who is going to come out on top in this season. I just hope that it is on track. I know that the narrative has gone around, these two are inevitably going to crash into one another. I really hope that that isn't the case. I hope it goes down to the skill of these two drivers, because that is what has risen to the top for me. Yes, there have been incidents. Yes, there have been talking points throughout the entire season, but these two have just been so much better than everybody else. They've been absolutely amazing. As I said, they've been in a league of their own compared to the other 18 drivers, and I just hope they get to show that one last time. One more drive, one more win, and one World Drivers' Championship for one of these two. Final thing I have to say is just thank you. I don't really know how to put this into words. Obviously, starting this channel at the beginning of the season, allowing me to grow and develop in front of you. So many truly amazing moments with all of you. It's been a dream to get this far in this journey and know that it's going to continue to build on in the future. It's gone way beyond what I could ever have really dreamt of or even fathomed. Like meeting you guys, talking to you guys, getting to know so many of you so well has just been wonderful. There's no real words I can sort of narrow it down into. I just want to say thank you. Leave a like, subscribe. As I said, we're going to be live for all of the weekend's action. Friday pre-race, qualifying, and the race, of course, on Sunday, just after midday UK time. I don't know what's going to happen, but I'm all for it. History is going to be made, and we will finally find out who is going to be the 2021 Drivers' World Championship. I'll see you there.